Are you tired of building an absolute noob trash house? Well, today I'm going to show you how to build the perfect house that will be unique every time. Also, big shout out to Blue Nerd who inspired me to make this video. The goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers, so I appreciate all the support. Location. Before you start building, you should always consider where you want your build to be. One of the things I would consider is biome. The biome will express the overall colors, block palette, and even terrain. There's a reason why plains biomes are so popular among builders. The biome can also affect your block palette. For example, if I move down here in the savanna, the way that my house would contrast on the grass in this biome would be a lot different from the plains biome, as you can see. Or even a taiga biome where the grass is a bit more like a bluish tint. Or if you're building in the desert, well, there's no grass at all, so you should also consider elevation. So let's say I wanted to build in this plains biome. Where would be the best spot? Would it be down here? Or let's say I'm building like a grand castle or a mansion or something. Maybe I'd want it to be like at the top of a hill, like maybe right here. So it looks more grand. You have a very nice view. Just depends on what you're building, right? But let's say you want to build more of like a low-end, kind of small little house. Maybe for like a poor section of your village or your town, maybe you'd want to build it on some lower elevation. So there's no right or wrong answer, it just depends on what you're building. Now, if you obviously want a view, of course want to build in some higher elevation, right? Another example is, let's say you're building in an area that's already established. Let's say you have some friends or you have a town or a village and you need to build something there. And the town is themed, in a very similar way. Let's say mostly made out of oak wood or deep slate. And then all of a sudden you make a house out of crimson logs. It'll just look out of place, right? Keep in mind the surrounding area, other builds that might be there. Have a clear intention and a clear vision before you start building. Structure. So we have to consider the structure of our build. First of all, you have to determine what is the purpose of my house. Do you just want to make a starter house, or do you want to have like an ultimate base that has everything that you could ever possibly need in it? This will determine the size that you need to build. So for example, let's say you just want to make a little starter house. Well, I'm sure this is big enough. So size accordingly for the house's purpose. Now, we're going to need to account for the interior height. So if we walk in here, this is what 2 blocks plus a slab would look like. As you can see, it's very cramped. We barely have enough space to put things on the walls. If you were to hang a lantern, this is what it would look like. You would bump into it all the time and get in your way. So, of course, 2 blocks, not ideal. Then we can move on to 3 blocks. So if we move on to 3 blocks, as you can see, it's still a little cramped, like if you jump, you'll bump your head on the lantern, but we have a little bit more space. Then let's move on to 4 blocks, and you can see this is a pretty comfortable height here. We can have, a bunch of space on the walls. The lanterns are very high up. We're not going to bump into them. I think 4 is a pretty safe place to start at. Then we can even go to 5 blocks or even more, right? This is 5. You can see we have plenty of room. We can even add a chain to our lantern to make it look like it's hanging. We have a bunch of room on the wall for tons of storage and items and blocks and whatever else. You can stack blocks super high. And also keep into account the windows. We could even have super tall windows. Now, let's talk about the shape. You're always safe to start off with just like a simple rectangle. Some people would say, you can't make a square look good, but it's definitely possible if you want more of like a cottage feel. Most cottages are square shaped. You could go for L shapes. I would keep it simple, guys. The shape of your house will be changed as we move forward in this video. So keep the base shape of your house super simple. You can do T shapes and plus shapes, but they're a bit harder to work with. So just keep that in mind. Let's move on to how we're going to start building. So you should start building with either laying down some pillars like I did here. As you can see, this will establish the frame of our house. Or you can create sort of like a foundation. If you don't want to have the pillar look to your build, you can start by building like a foundation. Let's say I want a nice strong stone foundation on the first floor. I can start building like that just to kind of frame out the house. And if I wanted like wood on the second floor, then I can start with that as well. And this way we can get a nice visual representation of the space that our house will take up. Now, if you're going with the pillar design, I want to showcase some examples of how to pre-plan for adding depth in your build. So what I mean by that is, here you can see we have an example of pillars protruding out 1 block from our actual wall, like this. And because of that, as you can see, we can add a bunch of detail blocks in between to create depth. So this is what that looks like here. But just keep in mind, on the outside it looks very grand and large, but once you go inside, well, it's going to be a little bit smaller. So just keep that in mind if you want to go for the extruding pillar design. Now, I want to show you guys an example of, let's say this build has no pillars, as you can see, but we've still managed to add some depth here on the outside. But I kind of did the opposite. So let's say you want your interiors to have a different wall than the block on the outside. Like, let's say I don't want my interiors to have a stone brick wall. Well, you have this. So we walk in, and as you can see, we used lime terracotta and some composters for like a little trim on the wall here, and we have this very nice look, which looks completely different from the outside. But we have to compromise on interior space. As you can see, it's a little cramped in here because of that. Now, let's say I wanted to combine both of these. I wanted to have extruding pillars and a different interior wall. So as you can see, our build is a lot bigger. It's even wider, right, compared to these two. But here, we now have the depth for the pillars that are extruding out a block. And then if you walk in, we even have custom walls on the interior as well. But as you can see, look at how much space we are losing out on because of that. So yeah, it'll make your builds look very nice from the outside, but you will sacrifice interior space. If that's not a problem for you, then definitely go for it. Color palette. So before we bring this to Minecraft, let's talk about color in general. For those of you that don't know, color can be separated into 3 categories. We have hue, luma, and saturation. Hue is the type of color. Your reds, your blues, your yellows, etc. Luma will be the brightness of your color. And then last up, we have saturation. Saturation is the intensity of a color. To have a good color palette, it's important to understand contrast. Now, when I say contrast, I mean contrast in either hue, luma, or saturation. So let me give you an example. Contrast of hue would be, if you look at a color wheel, what is the color on the opposite end of that wheel? So for example, when you look at orange, you'll have like cyan or teal on the opposite end. So orange and teal is a very popular look and is also a form of contrast in color. When you look at luma, you can look at the brightness of a color. You can even have contrast within the same hue of red by having different shades of red. And then last up, you have saturation. Contrast and saturation is, of course, the intensity. You can have an intense, let's say, intense neon green with the more subtle, less saturated green. Avoid extremes in all of the categories above: hue, luma, saturation. Now, how do we apply this to Minecraft? So here we have an example of an extreme. Now this looks terrible, of course. The resin roof, very bright, it's very saturated, it's like in your face, it's too powerful. Then we go to this, the polished blackstone. This is extremely dark, but it's also extremely saturated as well. Then we have some, extremely saturated windows with the yellow glass. It doesn't even work properly. And then you go onto the inside, which we have the warped wood in here. And yeah, there's too much going on here. Too much clash of powerful, strong colors, high saturation, and it just looks like a mess. Here's an example of a build with a balanced color palette. So let's start with the frame. The frame is made out of stripped spruce. It's kind of middle of the pack in terms of luma. Not too dark, not too bright. It's not overly saturated. It's also not overly desaturated. It's a nice middle of the pack. And the hue is a nice like brownish color. Then we go to our first floor. We have tuff. We have the nice stone texture. It's like bluish, the hint of green kind of stone there. It's very balanced. And it works really well, even with the spruce right here, as you can see. Works really well. Now let's go on to the next floor. We have bricks. The thing about bricks and granite, it might be like a reddish tone, but it's not a super saturated red. Like for example, if you're looking at this rose bush, that's like a super bright saturated red. Well, bricks are not like that. In fact, it's kind of like a desaturated red, right? Easy on the eyes kind of color. And it's a lot brighter than the tuff as well. So if you look at this objectively, right, we have, darker tones here, lighter tones here with the granite and the brick. And then we go up here, we have even lighter tones with stripped oak logs. And then to round it all out, our roof is made out of deep slate, which is the darkest of the blocks that we have here. Medium dark, medium, bright, dark. So all the colors are held together and very well balanced. And then this is all encased with a beautiful trim of spruce Now these green tones, and they break up a lot of these neutral tones, as you can see. Same with our copper doors and trap doors on the first floor. I used the orange copper here to contrast against the blue tones of our tuff. And then if you look up here, I used the oxidized blue copper to contrast with the red tones of our brick. And as you can see, we have a nice, beautiful, balanced color palette here with plenty of contrast and done in a very tasteful way. Now, these colors are a lot more similar and have less contrast than the previous build, but everything still works, and I'll explain why. Not everything has to have extreme contrast. When people think of contrast, people think of bright and dark. Some contrast, for example, that matters here is saturation. So here you can see our pink logs are nice and saturated. We have a bunch of greenery around that's very nice and saturated as well. And then the rest of the build, we have pale oak logs, which have almost no saturation, and andesite, which is also lower on the saturation scale, right? It all is very balanced with the high saturation of our logs and all of the greenery and even pink flowers around the build. That's why this build is balanced in terms of color palette. It's a lot of experimenting, but once you understand the fundamentals, you guys should be good to go. And then eventually you guys can create some very unique color palettes that most people never even attempt to use. So I came up with both of these on the fly just for the purposes of this video, and as you can see, they both look great. Now let's quickly talk about texture, since this also has to do with color as well. As you can see, my first floor and my second floor, we have texture. We use blocks of a similar color palette, right? So you can see these are both variants of tuff, and granite is like a lighter shade of the bricks. They look very well together. Now, as you can see, we have a wall here. This is simply one block, just all stone bricks. So there's no texturing here. Here we have stone bricks textured with regular stone. So this is 2 blocks worth of texturing. And here you can see we have 3 blocks worth. We added in some andesite. And here you can see we have 4 blocks. We added in some cobblestone as well. So we have 4 blocks here. And as you can see, adds a lot more visual interest to our walls, our exterior. And of course, you don't have to go with 4 blocks. You can go for anywhere from 2 to 4, even to 5, depending on the size of your build. Adding texturing to some of your builds can add some great variety. As you can see, I didn't add texturing on the top floor there. It looks a little plain. Sometimes you want to go for that, but adding texturing can add that, that worn down kind of look to your build. And then, last but not least, we can also add gradients. But I recommend only using gradients for larger builds because gradients look best from afar. So as you can see, when I get really close, it looks kind of goofy. I mean, it looks okay, but it looks kind of goofy, right? When we get really close to the build. So, but from far away, you can see it's a nice blend of colors. You can use gradients for small builds, but just don't go for extremes like going from deep slate tiles to diorite. Not my style personally, but if you like it, go for it. Roof design. Adding a roof to your house can be kind of annoying, very tedious, but arguably is one of the most important parts of building your house. So here we have the most basic style of roof, stairs going up, alternating until they get to a peak, and then going right back down. And keep in mind, guys, when building the frame of your house, try to go for odd numbers. You can go for even, it's possible, but generally speaking, I always go for odds. Next up, we have a slab roof. Basic slabs going up, and you can see just the difference alone between these two. It's a completely different look. Let's say we want an even more aggressive angle to our roof. Well, that's where we bring in full blocks. So we go from stair, upside down stair, full block, stair, upside down stair, full block, etc. until we, of course, get to all the way up there. And of course, this can even go higher if you simply add some of these. Then boom, you can go as pretty much as high as you want up until there. It's totally up to you, but as you can see, this is more of like a fantasy style, medieval style of a roof. Now let's apply stairs and slabs together. So when we apply those together, we get this. We start with stairs, upside down stair, and then eventually we get into slabs. And what that does is we have a line going up, and then the roof eventually curves at the top, like a nice circular curve at the top. And this I find is great for farm style builds, like maybe barns, maybe some cottages. Gives a nice soft kind of cozy look to your build. And then if we do the opposite, we get this, where we start with slabs and we go obviously into stairs and we get a nice like curve going up just like that. And I find this is also pretty good for medieval style or fantasy style. It just has a lot shorter of a roof height compared to this one here. When it comes to the top part, you can even customize it to make it your own. You know, add like little peaks like this. Like this looks very Nordic or even Viking. Just by adding like peaks up here. As you can see, I just have stairs into upside down stair, and then I just have 2 more stairs on each side. So another style of roof is hard stone building roof, which this can be great for like blacksmith or stonemason buildings or even like churches. It's kind of a style where you have stairs placed on top of your wall instead of a block out of your wall, right? It's placed right on top. And then on the outside, you have full blocks next to your stairs. And then on the ends here, you can add either wall blocks or fence blocks or chains or iron bars or whatever you guys want. And this could even be great for like some parts of a castle. It can look very nice in some like medieval builds. Now, moving forward, we have another type of roof, which is more of like a colonial style, I would say, like more even like haunted house kind of style of a roof. Like let's say this is like a tower, you know, on top of like a haunted house, and you have this kind of roof where start off with slabs into a block, into a stair, block, stair, stair, and then, you know, just add different varying heights. You guys can kind of experiment with this. You have so many other styles going from Japanese to desert builds to like modern to even castles. So just experiment, use reference images, guys. And not just Minecraft, use both. Find images online that you see in real life and try to emulate the different roofs depending on what kind of house you're trying to build. So now let's talk about roof trim. So as you can see here, we have 2 identical roofs, but one has a trim and one does not. So on the left here, you can see we have no trim on our roof. We just have spruce stairs. On the right, we have the same roof, but instead we use deep slate tile stairs to kind of trim out the roof here. And it just makes the overall build look a little bit more upscale, a little bit more fancy, a little bit more high-end, as you can see. And keep in mind what we learned about color theory to figure out what you even want to use as a trim. But just experiment, guys, and you'll figure out the exact blocks that you would like to use. Now, let's talk about our peak line of our roof. So the peak line is going to be the very top here, as you can see. We have it in our trim. This is just simply with slabs, which is fine. You can have it like that. Or you can mix it up by, let's say, you use stair blocks. When we have stair blocks going through, it looks a lot more rigid. It looks a lot more fortified and sturdy. We can even alternate it every other block, right? So we have slab, stair, and then we get this kind of look. And you can even go for like some extremes, like, you know, you can even have like wall blocks. And here I used wall and then a triple space in between to add our fence gate little arc here. And then I did that kind of twice, and it adds like a nice little peak to our roof. You can even add chains or lightning rods on top. And I also want to emphasize breaking up your roofs so they don't look boring. For example, if we look at any of these roofs here, it's kind of boring, right? It's just very simple, very plain, just spruce going across. There's like not much going on here, right? That's where we introduce dormas. So as you can see here, we have the same exact roof, but here I added a dorma. So there's different styles that you can do this. So in this first style, the dorma is attached to our roof trim, as you can see. So our roof trim would regularly be like this, and instead we have it curving into another section of a roof here. And then we simply brought up our wall of our build a little bit higher into the roof. And this breaks up this boring plain Jane roof very nicely. It breaks it up and adds a lot of interest, makes the build look a lot nicer, as you can see. If we were to have a second floor up here, this creates a lot more space as well. So the next style of dormer that we have is a very like subtle style, as you can see. All we did was curved out these stairs, and then we put a slab right on top here, and then a little trap door on the inside to act as like a little window. These barely add any space on the inside, but as you can see, they kind of break up the roof very nicely. They're very easy to make, and it's just like a nice way to add some visual interest to like a boring plain Jane roof. And then we have an in-between of kind of both of these styles here, where we are not touching the trim of our roof. We're not reshaping it, right? This all stays within the spruce, and it's still a lot larger as well. So this creates some additional space on the interior, but not too much, right? But as you can see, it doesn't mess with our trim at all. It's all integrated very nicely with the spruce. We just kind of curve these stairs out, and then we added a simple upside down stair, regular upside down, and then some slabs on top to connect. This all creates a very nice looking dormer. And if you've noticed about all of these dormers is none of them connect up to our peak line of our roof, as you can see. They all are at least 1 block below. See, the slabs are 1 block below. These are 1 block below. And even this one, our largest one, it's still 1 block below. And there's a reason for that. The reason is when you have varying roof heights, like this, for example, it adds a lot more visual interest to your builds. Amenities. Amenities are anything that you would like to add onto the base structure of your house. So as you can see here, with all the rules that we have previously learned, I have built a nice little frame. So what are some examples of amenities? Entryways, stables, a chimney, a balcony, you name it. The possibilities are endless. So here, you guys can see the same exact structure that we have, and I have marked out some areas on the exterior which are going to become amenities. So right here in the yellow, this can be a nice little entryway into our house. In the green, we can have a nice little garden bed, maybe in the front. In the blue here, we can add an exterior staircase going up to the 2nd floor with a mine entrance below. Here can be a chimney going all the way up the back wall of our house. Here could even be like a little extension bit tower going up to the top of our house. And in the red here, we could probably add some stables. So let's see what the house would look like after adding all of these in. And as you can see, I added in all the amenities that I listed over there. And this is the final result of the house. So in the yellow, we have our entryway, which is right here. Here's the garden bed that I came up with, kind of a unique design there. Then we come around here, we have a nice staircase going up to the 2nd floor, adding in a nice side entrance to our house. And then below, we kind of repurposed the staircase to be like a little mine entrance. This can obviously go down into a mine. Then come around the back, we have our chimney that goes all the way up to the top. We extended the house a bit with this little attachment, goes all the way up to the top. And with that, we combined a balcony going from there to here, and this empty space going through with our chimney. And I also decided to add a little work area down here with some crafting blocks by our chimney. We added a nice little farm here in the back where we can have quick and easy access to some crops. And then last up, we added a nice little stable area here. And as you can see, we took our very plain Jane looking foundation into a nice, beautiful house full of amenities, which are both aesthetic and even functional, like the horse stables, like the farm, like a little crafting area down here when you're outside, to a mine entrance, and even a side entrance. Most of these are actually very functional. Another important aspect that I want you guys to pay attention to is how everything that I marked out here is within the frame of our pillars. Never am I extruding outside or matching the pillars, especially if I'll be adding a roof to some of these. Let's say I had this matching there and then the roof would be here. It would just look kind of weird going up. It wouldn't line up with the pillars properly. These are just some of the amenities that I listed. Of course, there are so many options out there, guys. And this is where I want you guys to be creative. Windows. So the reason why I have windows coming after amenities is because once we have defined where our exterior amenities are going to go, we can then define where our windows will go to kind of play around our exterior details. Now, from the outside, a window here can look okay, but once you go on the inside, I would definitely avoid for the interior to have windows on the corner or like right alongside of a wall. Just looks weird, just looks strange. I think having a window right in the center like this looks a lot better. Now, not every wall needs to have a window. For example, here, I have a wall full of furnaces. And as you can see, there's no place to put my window at all on this back wall. So this is the beauty of defining where your amenities are going to be first, because now, for example, well, let's say I want to put a chimney back here. Well, this is the perfect spot because I don't need to have windows back here. So this wall would be a great place for the exterior to have some sort of amenity or detail, right? So now let's talk about what we could even use as windows. So as you can see here, we have kind of like a floor window. Nice grand window here when we have a mix of glass panes with glass blocks and then panes again. This kind of adds some nice depth to our window. You can even use fences as a window for a more medieval kind of old school look. It's possible to even use scaffolding like this. It frames out the area very nicely. You can even use hollow trapdoors like this. You can use iron bars. It's possible to even use stair blocks or slabs to create little slits like this. I find this to look best with stone walls like this. And sometimes your windows can be completely open like this to create a very unique shape. Just keep in mind that mobs can of course walk in and out. But now if we take this a step further, we can have a glass window that's a completely unique shape by adding depth. So we have the same unique shape from there, but there's glass here. How is that possible? Well, we go to the other side and we have an interior layer of glass like this. Now let's talk about adding depth to our windows. So there's many ways to do this. Here I have a nice little dark oak frame outlining our window to add some nice depth on this wall. You can even do something as simple as making the top or bottom block a stair to make it look like the window is integrated a little bit with the glass panes. This also can work with fences or trap doors. Here we've added window shutters with trap doors to create even more depth. And here's another style of window shutters. We just have open fence gates, a little campfire on top, kind of like a half frame on top with a little shutter. The details. So detailing is probably one of the most important aspects of your build to separate it from the competition. So here you can see we have a nice plain Jane wall. Let's figure out ways that we can detail it. You can add some wall blocks into a fence, into lantern, to add a little bit more structure. Now here we have our pillars extruded out by 1, and because of that, we now have some great detailing here with the use of stairs and the trapdoors to try to round off this very square shape. Rounding off any areas in your build adds a lot of detail. Next up, you can add detail by simply adding in greenery like this. As you can see on this wall, we have a nice overgrown section of a wall here, great for like a cottage style or a farm style build. Going back to our windows, you can add window frames for details. You can even add buttons. As you can see, we have our walls to our fences here with some lanterns. We have our buttons that look like little rivets in the walls. And even on the top here, we have a nice little trim piece from stair to slab to trap door and a little lantern attached up there. And last up, as an example, we can even use signs to create a little trim here on the wall. It adds some depth as well. The signs slightly protrude a little bit from the wall, and this overall looks very well balanced, but still very detailed. Now when it comes to adding detail, guys, there are so many possibilities. You guys just have to experiment with various blocks, such as stairs, slabs, walls, fences, lanterns. Trapdoors are great. Signs, as you can see, even buttons, a bunch of greenery, pots. There's a ton of ways to add detail and visual interest to the exterior of your house. Expansion. So let's say you've already built your house, but you simply don't have enough room. So I'm going to show you guys some techniques on how to expand your house. So moving here, you guys can see I've marked out some areas. The first and most effective way you can expand your house is simply by adding a whole new section. So here I've marked out a nice large chunk which was simply add in a whole new section to our house, giving us a lot of space. Now around the back, doing a slight expansion back here. That'll go all the way up to the top. This is only coming out by 2 blocks. It's a slight expansion, but it can increase the size of a room or something that we have up here or even here. Coming over to this side, I've marked out an area for a tower. Now what I like to do is have these towers serve as either a lookout or they can even serve as a staircase. So here I've marked out just a little area here coming out 1 block. This will add just this little slight expansion to the second floor right here. Last up, we have a section on the roof here that I marked out. Can be expanded into another room on the very top floor of our house, creating another floor. The whole point of expanding is to make something bigger. Unless you're doing a roof expansion, you do not have to stay within the confines of your original pillars or foundation. And alright guys, given all the fundamentals that we have learned thus far, this is the result. Let's start with the expansion. Every expansion that I marked out there has been applied to this build. So let's start with the biggest expansion here. As you can see, we added a whole new section to the house, which looks amazing. I even used a different block palette with the jungle trim on the roof, from the dark oak pillars to the spruce and to the stone texture on the first floor. And as you can see, even adding a different block palette, it looks great and adds a ton of contrast. Next up, we have our tower right here, which goes all the way up to the 3rd floor. And this tower extrudes out just slightly from our frame. And the inside, I actually utilize this tower as a staircase, which will save us some space on the interior. Over here, you can see we've extruded just the 2nd floor out 1 block. Coming around the back, we have extruded this section of the house, coming out by 2 blocks, starting from the 1st floor and going all the way up to the 3rd floor. And then last, we have our roof expansion, which comes out slightly up here, adding in a whole extra room to the very top of our house and a whole extra floor. Let me quickly show you guys what expanding the house has done to the interior. So of course this one has no interior, but as you can see, it's pretty small in here, pretty tight. Now let me show you guys what expanding has done for the interior and how much space we have now. We come in on the 1st floor, plenty of space here now. Then here we have a staircase that goes up to the 2nd floor. Tons of space on the 2nd floor. And going up to the 3rd floor here, which is a nice little attic, we have even more space up here. And guess what? We expanded in the roof as well. So we have another room all the way up here in the top floor. So now we have 4 floors total, plenty of space. There will be another video for interiors going forward, so stay tuned. Now, let's go over amenities really quickly. We have a nice little entryway here. We have a nice little garden bed on the left of that entryway. Coming around the side, we have a nice little outdoor crafting area here. On the back, we have a chimney that goes all the way up, integrated very nicely. We have some various details, of course, going all around the build. And then on the front side here, we have a nice little stable with some horses and some detailing blocks everywhere, of course. We have a nice roof design, as you can see. We even have a tower roof here. As for the color palette, I went with a very unique color palette here, coming with our mud into acacia logs, pale oak, acacia planks with a nice bright orange going into deep slate. And even on this side, we have a nice block palette here. And of course, with the initial frame, we had a great structure to work with that we applied everything to create this tremendous looking build. And this, guys, is how you build a house. You guys can build a unique design every single time if you follow these fundamentals. And don't be afraid to challenge yourself with unique block palettes like I did here. And don't be afraid to look up reference images online of not just Minecraft, but in real life as well. Landscaping. With all the fundamentals that we have previously applied, let's talk landscaping. We have a beautiful landscape surrounding our house. And this is simply how the landscape can affect our design. So here we have a nice plains biome. We went with a nice farm style for the landscaping. We have a custom tree here. Got a nice pathway going along. Nice little farm area with some details here. Coming around the back, we have a nice little bee area with some flowers. Nice little mud path going down here. Little pumpkin patch. Another custom tree. And coming around the side, we have a nice little hill with some rock formations here, integrated with some moss and mossy cobblestone. And we have a nice little bush hedge area right here, which looks very overgrown. And that is how you can utilize landscaping to add even more to your house. Now, let's take the same house and apply it to a completely different biome. So here, guys, we have the exact same house, but in a jungle biome. And this is the importance of landscaping. We have a nice little fish pond down here with a waterfall. The house is built upon a cliffside, waterfall into a fish pond, and a nice overgrown dense jungle. We have a little campsite out here with a path that goes up to our house. And keep in mind, guys, this is the same exact house as before. We have our nice little horse pen here. Coming around the back, we have a nice little path area here with a little mine entrance. Path coming all the way around. And this simply showcases how you can take the same house in two different biomes. Do not neglect location and the landscaping around your area, as they can garner very unique results. And with that, guys, those are all the fundamentals on how to build your house. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Hopefully this inspires you to either build a new house or improve your current house. And let me know if you guys liked the video, if it was good, educational. Thank you guys so much, and take care.